G'day, Geoff Lewis here from Seriously Series, and welcome to another episode of Servicing Your 4x4. Now, once again, we've got a different Land Rover here today, and this is actually a Land Rover Defender. It's fitted with a 300 TDI, and today what I thought we'd look at is just a very basic look around the engine, and obviously how to do an oil change. So if this might be a video that's of interest to you, then you know what to do. Stay tuned. Rightio, so first things first, we've got to get ourselves a new oil filter, don't we? Yes, we do. Now, I have done a service on this vehicle before, and I've found the Z8 9A of Ryco. It's quite a good filter, and I'll put obviously the product number or filter number in the contents section down below. But you can pick this up simply from your average automotive store, super cheap, Repco, whatever it may be. They should have one in stock. The next thing we need is obviously oil. The engine itself runs very nicely on a 1540. This vehicle here has over 400,000 kilometres on the clock, so 1540 does it pretty well. We'll just be using a Castrol RX. It's a very affordable oil. I've used it for years and it seems to work pretty well on all my vehicles, and obviously this vehicle too. So anyway, let's get stuck into it and see where we need to drain the oil, and obviously where is the filter actually situated in the motor. Rightio, under the bowels of the beast. So obviously we've got the front diff here, and then up here we've got what's known as the sump. And we've got obviously a bung or a bolt on the end of the sump. I'll just try and reach up there. Yep, just here. And obviously we just need to undo that. Now, one of the things that you need to note with this motor is the ridiculous amount of oil that it actually holds. It's a good thing, but I was very surprised when I first did a service on one of these. I think I'll have to check later on, but I remember it being around about 7 litres or more of oil, which is quite a lot for a 2.5 litre engine. Anyway, we will get a spanner onto that, and I'll tell you what size it is, and we'll go from there. Rightio, so to undo the sump plug, we need to use just get that bit better there, so you can actually see me. So, not the easiest position, but what we need to use is a 15mm spanner, as you can see here. And we obviously I'll just move the light, just want to very tentatively undo it. Now the other thing that I've done is I've actually let the vehicle cool down. There's nothing worse than draining oil out of a warm or even a hot motor. It can actually be, quite dangerous. So we'll just take that out very, very carefully, like so. And there we are. Nice, beautiful black oil. Oh. Oh. Well, that took me a lot longer than I thought. The oil filter is on the same side on the 300 TDI as that on the 2.25 litre petrol engine, and diesel too, which is obviously on the right hand side of the vehicle, and if you're in the proper part of the world, that's obviously on the right side. However, to actually get it off, it is a lot more difficult, and the reason being is it's a screw-on filter, and it's actually situated right on top of the front axle assembly. Now I imagine if I had a hoist this would be relatively easy, but as I don't have one, it is somewhat a bit of a struggle getting myself under there and then getting your arms in the position to actually take it off. Now, to be able to do it with the strength of my own hands, sadly I didn't put enough cement in my cup of tea this morning, so I haven't hardened up enough. So I had to use a oil wrench, and getting that in there was relatively difficult too. So there is a lot going on in this motor, I will tell you that now, and a heck of a lot more than a 2.25 litre. I'll give you that too. But you know, we're looking at a vehicle that was built in the 1990s and comparing it to a vehicle that was built back in the late 50s, early 60s, so chalk and cheese, you could say. But anyway, we'll get underneath there. I'll show you what I'm talking about in regards to where the oil filter is situated, and yeah, we'll get it on and get it up and going again. You'll have to apologise for the camera angle because it is incredibly difficult. But obviously you can see the round alloy / grey circular thing up here. That is where the oil filter goes. And this here is obviously the front suspension. And I can't quite get it in the right angle, I do apologise. But suffice to say, this is the front differential here, so it's basically right up on top of where the front axle is. So it is somewhat difficult to get into if you're lying on a concrete slab as I am. But anyway, what we'll do is we'll put some oil around the O-ring, and then I will tighten it up by hand and then nip it up with the clamp. And that should have us pretty much ready to fill the engine up with oil. Rightio, so got the new oil filter on, which was easier than taking the old one off, I'll give you that now. Some people say to fill up the oil filter with oil first before putting it on, but to put it in a nice way, it's in such of a difficult position and place for myself, an amateur I guess. I would not be game to do that because the concrete slab that I'm working on would have more oil on it than what's in the filter. So what I tend to do in this situation is I will turn the car over a few times with just using the starter motor to build up the oil pressure a little bit, and then I'll let the car actually start. And that's usually a pretty good way of going about it. But anyway, now we need to chuck a bit of oil in the motor, otherwise something disastrous will happen. So we'll get on to that. So we filled the motor up with oil, and supposedly, according to the manual, it takes 6.85 litres precisely. Probably give or take a little bit, I would say. But a top little tip here is, when it comes to actually filling it up with oil, always be sure to go off the dipstick. And when the dipstick says full, always add an extra ½ litre to a litre, depending on the size of the filter. Because if you think about it like this. When you actually turn the motor over and build a bit of oil pressure up in it, and then actually start the motor as I have after using the starter motor to build up the oil pressure as I just said, what happens is obviously the oil pump then fills the filter, which is empty. So if you've got it full up to the dipstick and that filter takes 1 litre, it's then going to drop right back down to the low mark, because there's always a 1 litre difference between low and high on a dipstick. Bit warm here today. So what I've done is I filled it up till it got to the full mark, and then I put an extra ½ litre or so in. And that, now, the dipstick should be spot on full. There you go. You can see that. So that's a great little top tip. And the reason why I've sort of picked up on that was because I've had cars serviced over the years, and I understand mechanics. They're very, very busy people. They've got a certain time frame to get your vehicle serviced, get it out, get the next one in. And sometimes they just don't have the time, or they're under the pump and they just don't have the time to do that level of detail. But great little top tip, and it always means that you can then hit the road with a peace of mind knowing that your oil level is absolutely spot on. Anyway, let's fire it up again and see how it goes. Well, there we have it. Another successful service on another Land Rover. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Servicing Your 4x4. And look, if you are enjoying the content here at Seriously Series, then please do consider supporting us via Patreon. All proceeds go to generating the content here at Seriously Series, and the more support we get, the more content we can bring your way. And if that isn't your cup of tea, you can support us via PayPal, via our website, by clicking on the web link in the content section down below. And if you're new to the channel and you're just trying to figure out who we are, what we do and all the rest, then click on that subscribe button down below, click on that notification button too. And I hope to see you in our next video.